Iguazu Falls are waterfalls along the Iguasu River in South America, which form a natural border between Argentina to the south and Brazil to the north. Taken as a whole, they make up the largest waterfall system in the world, and along with Niagara Falls on the border of the US and Canada, and Victoria Falls, which borders Zambia and Zimbabwe in Africa, they are one of a trio of waterfalls that have always been high on our bucket list. We have been blown away by the scale of Niagara when we first visited way back in 2014, but Iguazu was going to take it to a whole new level.
If you are new here, we are Kitty and John, and we love to travel and experience new cultures. Whether we're ticking off bucket list destinations like Machu Picchu in Peru, or doing something crazy like paragliding in Turkey, our passion for travel never seemed to fade. Recently, we've been spending much of our time in South America and have really fallen in love with the continent. So make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell if you'd like to see more content from this incredible part of the world. Now let's dive into the video.
Iguazu Falls are located right on the border of Argentina and Brazil, and as such there are two different national parks you can visit in order to see them, one on the Argentine side and one on the Brazilian side of the river. You'll see that they both offer very different views, so we highly recommend spending at least 2 full days there so you can do both sides, one each day, in order to get the full experience. If you're visiting from Argentina, the closest town to stay in is Puerto Iguazu, which has the usual collection of restaurants and souvenir shops, and Foz do Iguazu is the closest town to the falls on the Brazilian side. Whichever side of the border you choose to base yourself on, it's super easy to use the local buses to get from one side to another, as they take you directly to the national parks, so you don't have to worry about connecting on the other side.
The Argentine side is made up of Parque Nacional Iguazu, which is definitely the bigger of the two, as the majority of the waterfalls that make up Iguazu are on the Argentine side of the border. This is reflected in the current, more expensive entry fee of 45,000 pesos. Getting from Puerto Iguazu to the national park was actually very easy. We made our way to the bus station in town and bought a return bus ticket with Rio, Uruguay for 11,000 pesos per person. We took the earliest bus we could to try and avoid the crowds later in the day and arrived at the national park just before it opened. This doesn't mean you're still not going to get caught behind large tour groups though.
I'm excited to see Iguazu.
Yeah. I'm hoping that we'll be able to see it and beat the rain.
Parque Nacional Iguazu is made up of many different circuits, but the most popular 3 are definitely the upper and lower circuits and the Garganta del Diablo walkway. We made our way to the upper circuit first, which is a 1.5 kilometer route that takes you right along the very rim of the higher set of waterfalls. As we rounded the corner and got our first view of the panorama before us, the scale of these waterfalls finally hit home, and we fully understood why Eleanor Roosevelt had exclaimed "Oh Niagara" when she saw Iguazu for the first time. Walking right on the very edge of these waterfalls and seeing the volume and power of the water tumbling over them was pretty incredible, but also quite nerve-wracking at the same time, as all that was separating us from the water were some fairly rickety-looking walkways. We could even see some of the damage the water and weather had done to certain sections. The upper circuit takes you about 2/3 of the way along the first section of waterfalls, ending in a long walkway out to a lookout point that is similar to the Garganta del Diablo, but doesn't quite get you as close to the edge. It's all a one-way system, so the trail loops back to the start through the jungle a little further inland.
Wow, we just finished walking through the upper circuit. Unbelievable how powerful the water was. We're here in the rainy season in December. The day before we arrived, it just rained constantly for like 24 hours, and the waterfalls are just at full flow. Unfortunately, it does mean that you can't really see the whole panorama super clearly because it's very misty, and what with the clouds today, it all kind of blurs into one, but it's still just so so cool to be that close to the waterfalls. We're hoping that some of the other routes are open. There's like 3 different, or 4, maybe 4 different circuits you can do here on the Argentine side. The upper circuit we just did. The lower circuit we're hoping is open. The very famous one, the Diablo walk all the way out to the very top of the waterfalls, is closed due to all the rain. So that's a bit of a shame, but hopefully we can do a few more circuits before we leave.
Thankfully, the lower circuit was open, so we made our way there next. By this time, it was mid-morning, so the walkways were a lot more crowded than what we had experienced on the upper circuit earlier. This trail is another roughly 1.5 kilometer route that took us down to the lower area of the falls, first taking us over some of the smaller waterfalls before opening out into another panoramic viewpoint. Unfortunately, due to the cloudy weather conditions and the amount of mist rising off the falls, visibility was pretty low as we were much further away from the waterfalls here than on the upper circuit. It did improve as we got closer, but it was still seriously hazy around the main waterfall area. Thankfully, as we circled around, the path passed by the base of the Dos Hermanos waterfalls, which were a little bit clearer and quite impressive in their own right, even if you didn't know they were just part of an even bigger collection. As the Devil's Road walkway was closed, we didn't see any point in riding the train that takes you to the start of the trail, so we headed out of the park and waited for the next bus to take us back to Puerto Iguazu.
Since we had a bit of extra time to kill in the afternoon, we headed over to the Tres Fronteras Park, which, as the name implies, marks the spot where 3 country borders meet.
This is Brazil over here, and then all of this along here is Paraguay, and then of course we're standing in Argentina. Not many places in the world you can see 1, 2, 3 countries from the same spot.
Each country has erected an obelisk painted in their colors, and on the Argentine side at least, there is a monument flying all 3 countries' flags. Another pretty noticeable feature of this area is the crazy color difference of the 2 rivers, with the Iguasu River coming off the falls being a muddy brown, and the Parana River coming from the north being a nice blue color. There's also a pretty cool looking old riverboat moored a little further up the Iguasu River, and a port where you can take local tours from if you want.
As we were staying in Puerto Iguazu, getting to the Brazilian National Park was a slightly longer process, but not really any more difficult. From the main bus terminal, we once again bought our return tickets with Rio Uruguay, this time to the Brazilian National Park for 12,000 pesos per person. Just make sure you buy tickets to the bus that's going to the national park and not just to the terminal of the town in Brazil, because sometimes it can get some people out. We passed through border control in Argentina and then hopped back on the bus and crossed the bridge into Brazil. A short time later, we arrived at the national park entrance where we paid our entry fee of 117 real, which is about half of what the entry fee of the Argentine side is. Then you have to hop onto another bus that takes you to the start of the waterfall trail. If you're lucky, you can get on an open-top bus like we did on the return journey, or you might just get on a regular bus like we did on the way there.
One of the reasons the Brazilian side is quite a lot cheaper than the Argentine side is that there's really only one trail within their national park that most visitors will do. There are other trails, but they're a lot less popular and they don't really get you views of the waterfalls, so to speak. The main trail follows the cliffs along the river and gives you panoramic views of the entire waterfalls from different angles as you walk along. Once again, our visibility was affected by the mist and clouds, but not so much that we couldn't appreciate the incredible show Mother Nature was putting on for us. The trail ends at the Devil's Throat Lookout, which, considering the level and power of the water, we were very surprised to find open, especially considering that the same sort of thing on the Argentine side had been closed. This walkway takes you right out over the Garganta del Diablo, and, when the weather is good, gives you spectacular views of this section of the waterfalls. When we were there, it was basically a complete whiteout, so you couldn't really see any part of the Devil's Throat, but that didn't mean you couldn't appreciate the raw power of the water passing floating right underneath you. Just be prepared to get very wet, especially if you venture all the way out to the end. Just after the lookout, the trail rises up to a viewpoint where you can get super close to this insanely powerful wall of water. This was probably our favorite section of the entire hike, and we spent a long time watching the waterfall cascade down just meters away from us.
This place is insane. It's crazy to be just so close to raw nature, something so intense and wild. It's kind of sad that you can't see the whole area, you know, like it's blue sky and beautiful, but the power of the water is just next level. It makes up for that big time. The fact that this is still open though kind of baffles me. I think if we were on the Argentinian side, this would definitely be closed. The water is very near to the top of the walkway. Any sort of level rise and that water's like sweeping over the walkway. It's still very cool to be out there though.
We actually found out a little bit later that the day after we were there, the water had risen again and come over the tops of where the walkway was. Thankfully, nobody was on it at the time, but it just shows that the water level can rise at any moment. So it was definitely a little bit risky to be going out there at that time.
Iguazu Falls had been a big bucket list destination for us for a long time, and whilst we didn't get the perfect weather conditions to viewing them, they definitely didn't disappoint. In fact, seeing them in full force was actually incredible, and we probably won't see that much water traveling with that much power until we actually visit Victoria Falls. In our opinion, both sides are worth visiting, but if we had to pick a favorite based purely on our experience, then we would pick the Brazil side. What factored into our decision later is the fact that we didn't get to experience the full Argentine side because the Devil's Throat trail was closed, but we were able to walk out to the Devil's Throat lookout on the Brazilian side. As I said at the start, we highly recommend allocating at least 2 days to visit Iguazu Falls and visit both sides because it would be a shame to come all this way and only visit one of them.
Thanks for watching, and as usual, if you enjoyed this video or found it useful, make sure to hit that like button. And if you want to catch any more of our content from Argentina or across South America, then make sure to subscribe so you can follow along with everything that we've got coming up from this amazing continent. We also have a travel blog where we go into way more detail about all of the locations featured on our videos. If you're looking for any more information about anything that you've seen, that's the place to go to check that out. Otherwise, we'll catch you right back here on the next adventure in Argentina.